Thanks for staying with us here on Sports Live. The Euros are also ongoing. It is quarter-final time, currently 1-1 between England and Switzerland. That game has gone to extra time, and they are now in the second half of extra time. Netherlands up against Turkey later on. We'll give you the results of this match before we leave the show. But right now, let's put the focus on local football. It might be the off-season in the PSL, but the last few days have been very dramatic, more than the action on the field. Champions Mamelodi Sundowns have dominated the headlines after the shock sacking of Coach Rulani Mokwena on Wednesday. This has now been followed by the return of Steve Komphela, who rejoins the club after a stint at Arrows and Swallows. There's also Fatlu Davids moving to Tanzania. And to help us unpack these developments and others, we are joined by Sports Live senior reporter Velile Mnyandu here in studio. Good evening, Velile, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Tabis, and also to the viewers.
Let's start with the return of Steve Komphela. It came as a surprise to many. You're always on the ground. Did it come as a surprise to you too?
Yeah, no, I think with this one, Sundowns really did their job proper in terms of there was no breaking news or anything around it. But look, it was a surprise. But I think the part where maybe I would say not a relevant surprise, we knew that Coach Steve Komphela was still in the payroll of Mamelodi Sundowns because from the last time he left Sundowns, his contract had not elapsed yet, and he still continued to be paid by Sundowns from his time at Swallows and also his time now even at Golden Arrows as well.
Where he was on the bench in a friendly match yesterday.
He was on a bench in a friendly match yesterday. 24 hours later, he's at Lucas Moripe Stadium in another friendly match with a different team. So football, in just 24 hours, no.
So what's your understanding of his role then? He returns as a senior coach. Is that similar to the position he occupied before he left?
Yes, so it's similar to the position that he occupied the last time. Senior coach, which is more of still an assistant coach, but just different terminology as well. And also there was an interview that even Coach Mhlongo had. I think it was yesterday, if not the day before yesterday, on Ikakasi FM in Durban, where he was asked about what's the situation with the latest contract of Coach Mhlongo. He said, no, Mhlongo is going to renew, but he's not going to renew as an assistant coach or a head coach. But there's a new role that they will be introducing at Sundowns, which makes you wonder what will be happening now. And also, I think what has made me curious about the Sundowns statement, it doesn't talk about who is going to head the team. It talks about, even today, the reappointment of Coach Steve Komphela. It talks about him helping Coach Mhlongo to prepare the team for the new season.
Which means they could still be searching for a head coach.
Yes, which means there could still be something there.
But we can't run away from the coincidence, though. It's too much of a coincidence that Steve Komphela returns when Coach Rulani Mokwena has left the club. Or are we reading too much into this? Or is it linked?
I know, because because the way it's just happening, you kind of try and read between the lines, but you're like, no, man, just a few days after. But I think, Tabiso, you have to go back to immediately after Coach Steve left Sundowns. A veteran journalist, Matselana Mamabolo, did an interview with him. And in that interview, in that story, Coach Steve did say that when the head coach, Rulani Mokwena in that case, he said it, that he's looking for his own people.
In the technical team.
In the technical team. That's when it dawned on him that, look, maybe it's time to get moving. And that's how he ended up at Swallows at the time, because it was kind of a hint that maybe he will not have space within that technical team that was led by Coach Rulani Mokwena at the time.
Okay, seems like there was a fallout there between the two coaches. Interesting one, because Steve Komphela is the one that gave him his break also back in the times of Platinum Stars.
Yes.
But also now Coach Rulani has left Sundowns. It's another one that has shocked many, and there have been reports that there's been a fallout between him and the technical director, Fleming Berg. But in the statement released by the club, they say he did not meet the objectives. Which one do we believe here now, Velile?
Well, Tabiso, it's very interesting. And sometimes, in a situation where there's lack of clarity, there's lack of explanation on issues, we are left to speculate. And sometimes speculation it doesn't augur well for the institution. And in this case, we can only speculate based on what we read and what we see. But obviously, some of the differences between the head coach and the TD are well documented in terms of what we've seen from the players who are leaving the club, and also some of the signings as well. And if you listen to some of the interviews that the coach has also been having, there's a lot of hints that you see there, you know. But I don't want to believe the issue of the mandate yet, in terms of whether he's met the expectations of the club and what. Because I've seen the contract, especially the current contract of the coach. It says that you must win the league, you must win the Champions League, you must win the AFL, you must win at least 2 local cups. So
you must win everything, basically.
Yeah, but then when you read Sundowns contracts, because I've seen Sundowns contracts from the coach of the first coach contract that Coach Pitso signed back in 2012. Sundowns contracts are standard and similar. So this is something that has always been there. And even Coach Pitso never fully met all the mandates of the club. And even with Coach Rulani as well, even when he was a co-coach. So which tells you that I think it was the last resort to get to talk about the mandates, because no coach at Sundowns has ever met an exact mandate for the season. So which tells you that the issue of the mandate was not really. There is something that might have happened. And this thing, I think we must not be quick to reduce it into a matter of the TD and the coach, because it's the club that released the statement.
Yeah, and according to the statement, it's the board that made the decision to release Coach Rulani Mokwena. What does the future hold for him? I don't think he'll be short of suitors. There's been talk about him going to North Africa.
Yes, there's been talk of him going to North Africa, because where this matters, Tabiso, you must understand that the coach was really looking forward to coaching the team at the expanded Club World Cup at the end of this coming season in USA next year, because it's the biggest stage that any coach, especially at club level, wants to see himself operating at the Club World Cup. Coach Pitso has been there 3 times already, twice with Al Ahly and also with Sundowns as well. So as young as he is, at the age of, he was going to be 38 by the time he goes to that space. So it was something big for him. So now that he can't go with Sundowns, maybe the opportunity could be with Wydad Casablanca. Remember, they are one of the 4 teams from Africa, together with Sundowns, Al Ahly and Esperance, who are going to be at the Club World Cup. Unfortunately, with Sundowns, you won't be going there anymore. And also, unfortunately, Wydad is not in the CAF Champions League this season. They finished 6th back home. They are not even in the CAF Confed, but they are still in the Club World Cup. So maybe that is another thing that makes that project appeal to him. But I've just seen something late today. There's also talk of him going to Algeria as well, USM Alger. You remember they were even in the final recently of the CAF Confed. They were champions last season of the CAF Confed as well. So I think North Africa is calling for him. It's going to be interesting to see which one is taking first.
Well, one coach who's taken a leap of faith has left Morocco, having delivered the title along with Joe Zimbauer, is Coach Fadlu Davids. He's moved to Tanzania now as a head coach. What have you made of this appointment? Exciting
times for South African football, Tabi. So exciting times for young coaches in the country. And I think for me, as we talk about Coach Rulani, if maybe he's considering to leave these shores, I think there's no better motivation than to see what his former colleague has just done. I mean, they've just done a double and invincibles, both in the Botola Pro League and also with the Throne Cup as well. And now he's taking this different direction, going to Simba, one of the biggest teams in East Africa, not just in Tanzania. They are also in the AFL. And unfortunately, they're not in the Champions League this coming season, but they are still in the CAF Confederation Cup. But there's a bigger mission, and he has to hit the ground running there, because they want to reclaim the glory with a younger dominating now.
And he's assembled his own technical team of also South African coaches, having also obtained his UEFA Pro license, by the way, Coach Fadlu.
A very youthful team. I mean, You look at the analyst there, Moez.
Moez Khan, yeah.
Yes, you also look at Darian. Darian is a former analyst at Orlando Pirates, but now he's been his assistant. Also, he was a second assistant at Draja as well. Rido knows that space very well. I thought that was a very good move because Rido has worked with Yanga in Tanzania, the fitness trainer, formerly with Mamelodi Sundowns as well. And also Wayne Sandilands, also joining now as a goalkeeper coach. So I think this is something that is good. And also, it also says to some other CAF licensed, especially CAF A licensed coaches here in South Africa, they have no excuse. There's Botswana here next door. There's other countries here next door that are looking for coaches. If you are qualified and you want a job, go out there and market yourself.
Yeah, and I think Coach Pitso Musambada has set the bar there and has earned respect, and that has in turn then transpired to other South African coaches now being looked at by these teams in North Africa as well as the rest of the continent. Okay, Velile, we have to leave it there. We were going to talk about Bafana, but I think we still have a lot of time to discuss the AFCON qualifiers. But thank you for being here. Always have your ears on the ground. Velile Mnyandu, Sports Live senior reporter. We'll leave it there for now, but the show does continue after this break.